Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. This is the place to be for stories to inspire and uplift when life doesn't go according to our plans. I'm Laura Muirhead, your host and the reigning queen of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. I can't wait to share the plot twist stories of my guests that will inspire and uplift you when life didn't follow the plan, right here on A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. Hello and welcome to this episode of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. I'm your host, Laura Muirhead, and I am joined today by Vivian Shapiro. She is a co-author with me in Entangled No More. The book, we have 20 women in that co-authors of that book. And Vivian, come and introduce yourself. Tell us where you are and what you do in the world.
All right. Hi, Laura. So nice to actually meet you in person, almost in person, and to meet your audience. Hello, dear watcher. I hope that you're going to enjoy what I have to tell you. So my full name is Vivian Shapiro, and I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And no, it's not cold out here. It's actually very warm these days. And I'm just going to do this right out there. I am going to be turning 77 in a couple of months. And I think that's part of what is my appeal suddenly of trying to write a book about how vibrantly I've lived my life. So I'm a woman of many experiences. I was in my career life, I was a teacher and then a vice principal and principal. Had an amazing career, loved every minute what I did. When I retired, I was asked to join an organization, a charity, and be their first ever education director. And what we did is we basically did programs called Future Aces, programs to empower youth, especially disenfranchised youth, and to really make them feel like leaders and to pay that forward into their community. So I did that for another 20 years. I can't believe that I did that 20 years after retirement. And I also run a health and wellness business. And on top of that, I decided as a COVID project to write a book about something that people constantly ask me is how I get my energy, how I stay so vibrant. I thought maybe I should find out and actually tell people. So that's my story. I have my family is a blended family. My husband and I have two families together, but we've been together 26 years. And we have 5 adult children with their spouses. And I can't even do it on my hands. I have 13, grandchildren. Did I freeze?
Yep, you froze for just a second. Hopefully you'll be back here in a minute.
Okay,
there you are.
Okay, I have 13 grandchildren, if you can believe it. And today is one of my youngest one's birthday. So that's me.
That's amazing. I mean, it sounds like you just have done so many things and have had so many experiences. And like you said, you have quite a vibrant life that you've led and are amazing for what you still have a lot of energy. I mean, unfortunately, so many times people just expect as we age, that you're just going to just stop, I guess, just stop doing all the things. And you clearly haven't. And so tell me and our audience, our listeners today, what your A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life story is that you'd like to share.
Okay, so it kind of centers around me writing the book, but it goes a little bit beyond that. Many of us have lived through the fears and the anxieties of our life with COVID lately. And that was a real scare for me. So I had all these challenges coming up at me, I guess it's about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. First of all, my husband and I, we decided to sell our house, sell our cottage. My dog passed away and all these different things, life changes, like transitions. And we decided to move into a condo and travel. Well, that was cut short. Like the whole idea was to not have a house, no responsibilities, just keep place where you just turn the key and out you go. Don't have to worry about anything. And then COVID came. And also I had a scare at the beginning where I thought I had it, COVID. But I think what happened for me, I'm a very busy, I continue to be very busy, Laura, in everything I do, like either with my grandchildren or still, I just retired from that charity. So I was still really doing that, and we couldn't go in schools anymore. So it was really kind of hard to do things online with kids. But all of a sudden, my life, as I know it, as I knew it, my active life, the life where I wasn't 24/7 around my husband, that life changed and sort of made me, uh, you know, like not depressed, but it kind of, flipped my usual kind of funky manner into something like very subdued and very like boring. It's boring. So what I did, and interrupt me for any questions here because I can just run on the mouth. Um, I decided to take some action. That's what I did. I try. The book is one, but more than that, I started to. I sort of had I love acronyms. I don't know. Do you like acronyms, Laura? You must like acronyms.
Yeah.
I love acronyms. So I took the word action and I thought to myself, okay, I've got to take some action. I've got to do something different in my life that I haven't done, that I'm not comfortable, that, maybe it'll be have some discomfort. And so the words for action, I'm going to cheat because I can't remember them all. I'm going to look and see what I said. So first of all, I wanted to affirm an attitude of gratitude. Now you did that beautiful, calm down breathing in the beginning. And I do a lot of that, Laura, meditation and, centering myself. And I wasn't being very grateful at all at that time. We were everybody, the whole world was being so anxious and afraid, and the pictures we saw and so on. And it was just really getting to me. I shut off the news, but I thought, okay, I have to affirm an attitude of gratitude. And then the other thing I thought, what can I do that's child-centered? Because my whole life teaching and everything was always to gift children with some capacity or another. And kids were going through a really rough time, right? At the beginning, lockdowns and things like that. I don't even know, Laura, where are you from?
I am in the United States. I split my time between New Jersey and Michigan.
Oh, you're not far from me.
No.
New Jersey and Michigan. Yay, we'll have to meet up in person. But yeah, so the same thing happened in your school systems. There were lockdowns and kids couldn't go to school, and then there were all sorts of COVID things going on. And kids were frightened and they didn't know, and doing school at home, please. This doesn't work. So what can I do there? And something teachable. So that's the T for action. And then I thought, okay, maybe I could do something inspiring to get the world feeling good again, and optimistic, inspiring and optimistic, and something that would be nurturing. So I kind of did three things. This is before the book idea. And I'm really actually proud of what happened because it really helped me enjoy the COVID anxiety. Like it really, I made use of what COVID was doing to the world and what the fears of dying. There was fears of dying and fears of getting sick, and especially at my age, the seniors were all, the ones that were the most, worrisome, and so on and so on. And it totally turned myself around. Do you want to hear what I did?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
First of all, wait, I need to go back because I can't really imagine you being boring, but maybe you were bored, but I can't imagine you being boring. But yes, I do want to know, what did you do? What did you do?
Okay, well, I'll just tell you about the boring part. The boring part was I didn't speak to anybody on the phone. I didn't want to, we couldn't even have anybody over. And all I was doing was watching Netflix, and my mind was mush. My mind became mush. So not only was I bored, but I was boring. Like I didn't have anything to say. I didn't want to watch the news. I read, but that's so. And I needed to be with people. I imagine you're like that too, Laura. I can sense that. Like I just need people. So one of the things I did, the first thing I did was the kind of attitude of gratitude thing. And I thought to myself, um, the, the I'm trying to say it in a way that comes, I wrote a song a way back when, so almost 20 years ago, with a singer-songwriter called Sharing a Dream. And the Sharing a Dream song was meant at the time for a fundraiser where they were bringing in Israeli and Arab people together to try and find a way to build a structure in Israel where both Israeli and Arab children could work together and play together and, you know, a drama together and everything. It was like a community center. And they were raising funds for this. And this was along with the mayor of Jerusalem at the time. And I was asked to, so the song, way back when, I was asked by my nephew who was running that organization to, if my kids at the create sculptures for the table settings. And these sculptures would be the various different buildings that were in Israel. And each table would have this paper mache sculpture. So we did that. And then as he said that, he said to me, you know, that's great. You're going to get a ticket to go there. And I said, you need a song. You need a song that is about the bringing together of these cultures and bringing peace and harmony together. So he said, write one. So, because I write poetry and songs. So I wrote one with my friend. I wrote it, but my friend Richard Samuels, he created the music and then magically got together and we got a whole group of volunteers together who sang the song, put it on a CD. Everyone at the event got the CD. It was called Sharing a Dream. And I got my own choir to sing it and actually perform it at this big event. And I'm just trying to trying to see if I have the date. So it was like 1996, around there. Yeah, 1996 is when we did it. That was a long time ago. And that song is used now in Toronto because it was not, we didn't charge for it all. That song is used in Toronto by many different high schools at Remembrance Day services where they play it. So it's just my little, however, what could I do with it with COVID? I took the song, I asked Richard for the actual original track, and he's in California. And I took the song and I created images of COVID, but the good things happening in COVID, like the first responders and what they were doing. I asked all my neighbors to sit on the porch and just come together as a family, and we took pictures of them. I asked all my friends and family, send me pictures of what you're doing during COVID. And then I found, you know, there were groups singing and things like that. And I even filmed some things on TV. It's probably not legal, but there were a lot of charitable events that you know, Beyonce and people were doing. So I actually filmed them and actually put them. So I created a slideshow where the song overrides the slideshow, and it was beautiful. So I sent it out to a lot of people, and I had a couple of radio. Well, it's a visual thing, but radios talked to me about it, and it went. I don't know. It got a number of views on it, and I thought to myself, if I could make one person, just one person, just feel the hope instead of the fear. That was my inspiring and thanking the world for what they were doing, my attitude of gratitude, my gratitude, my gratefulness for the frontline workers for sure, but also all the people that were supporting each other here, there, and everywhere, instead of focusing on the deaths, the numbers, you know, the stats that were coming up. So I had a lot of great feedback on that. So that made me feel good.
Yeah, that
And
sounds incredible. I mean, it sounds incredible that you created it in the first place, and I love that you repurposed it and, you know, made it an inspiration during that time. It's beautiful. Okay,
yeah,
so that's one thing, right? So
yeah,
what else did you do?
yeah. So thank you, Laura, for that. And you can see it on YouTube. I think if you put Sharing a Dream, it will come out up. But if you want a link, I can give you a link. Okay, the other thing was the child-centered thing and being teachable. So my biggest worry were my grandchildren. because as a teacher, I knew that they wouldn't get the same kind of education that they would be getting if they were in a classroom with other kids socializing. I mean, I think there's going to be a backlash of COVID kids. I think there's somewhere down the road, the 2.5 years that they kind of missed with the proper education, proper socialization with other children. Do you know my granddaughter, just an aside, if I might, my granddaughter was born basically, and COVID happened. And for the longest time, she thought the only child in the world was her brother. Like she didn't know other children. And finally, when things were a little looser and she was taken to a park, she kind of looked around at all these other kids like, what are these people? Like it was
Yeah.
just her brother and her family. So my very youngest, so I'll just say their names so it's easier for me to talk about them, Sawyer and Scarlett, were my son decided to go to his cottage where it was, there wasn't city stuff happening. And they did their work from home, as everybody did. And Sawyer, who was in kindergarten at the time, did online kindergarten. And I just didn't think it was enough. And I loved his teacher. And I actually sat in and watched what she did, and she was incredible. Every teacher needs to be praised for the incredible job they did coping with what they had to cope with and doing online classes. But anyway, I said to Sawyer, who at the time was 4.5 actually, I said, do you want to create a show together, like a Zoom show, and other people could come on it? So we had the Bubba and Sawyer show, and we made up a song. It's the Bubba and Sawyer show. We're here for you, and there was more to it. And he learned it. And at first I kind of ran the show, and we had the letter of the day, and we had the picture of the day, and then we did some science, and it was like Mr. Rogers. Did you remember Mr. Rogers? It was like a Mr. Rogers show. It really was. And little by little, he took over the show. He sang all the songs. We made up a song about coronavirus, which I probably won't remember, but it's coronavirus. You're creating such a fuss. I can't go to school each day, and talks to the kids. And then there was a song about washing your hands, wash your hands, like, sing happy birthday and blah, 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 whatever. And he totally just tunes that we made up and things like that. And we did 43 episodes
Oh
of
my
the
goodness, I
Bubba
love
and
that.
Sawyer show. Yeah. And towards the end, and it's really cute to see the progression because he takes over. And we would plan it, like we would actually plan what letter do you want to do, and he taught kids how to, and we did artwork on the show. So I was at home, he was at the cottage, and the odd time I would be there with him. And he had a big black chalkboard behind him that he'd write the Bubba and Sawyer show. And it was so great. I actually tried to I guess, market it to other places, but I really didn't get a good response from, TV. Like I thought it'd be cute on TV, but anyway, that didn't work. It didn't matter. And we had visitors, so anybody could come on. They would just make an appointment to say we want to come on. We didn't want to have too much. Well, we needed to know who was coming on, and then we would kind of make sure the program had something in it. So one time we had this little kid who loved all the superheroes. So we did, the whole thing was on superheroes. And then the little kid dressed as a superhero, the visitor. And one time we had his whole class came on. We invited the whole class, his whole kindergarten class came on, senior kindergarten. And they loved it. It was great. And then they got the little link so that they could have that forever. You can see it. So that was it.
Amazing. It sounds like so much fun.
That was the Bubba. But the cutest thing was the Corona, we called it the Corona Rock. What was it? The Coronavirus Rock for Kids. That's what we called that. So that was that. That was fun. And what a great way to connect with my grandson. I wasn't going to be able to see him, for 2 years, just occasionally. My son was very, very cautious about what was going on, and cautious more about him perhaps spreading germs to me, because he was still seeing, in his business, he was still seeing people. And then little Scarlett was born. Well, she was already born, but she got old enough to kind of sit in the background and watch too, because it took its course over the 2 years. Kind of
Well,
thing.
and I was going to say, I'm sure that's a memory that will just stay with him forever. And what an incredible thing that you created together, and to, give him a little bit of empowerment and learning, and, share your, teaching abilities and creative abilities. I think that it's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Like I'm thinking the same thing, that he'll have a memory. Sometimes I ask him about it, and he says he's 7 now. So sometimes I ask him about it. He just turned 7, and he says, I don't remember it all. So I've got them all. They're all on Vimeo, right? So when I have alone time with him, we choose one to watch. And he just like, he can't believe that it was him. He's this little tyke. He's curly hair, long curly hair. And he comes out with the funniest things. He's really adorable. So that'll be a treasure for him one day. I think I should put it all on one disc or something like that they can watch. So
Yeah, somewhere where he can have that memory,
yeah,
and like you
yeah,
said, watch it over and over. And they don't, I think that, you don't remember, at that age so well. And then he can go back and, who knows, share it with his kids or his grandkids or
yeah,
whatever. That's so
yeah,
much fun.
yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Right. And then I have the other like 11 grandchildren. And with them, we do FaceTimes. Then everybody did FaceTimes with everybody. We had Christmas on FaceTime, or not on Zoom. We're Jewish as well. So we had Hanukkah on Zoom. Like we had crazy times. Wasn't it crazy times?
Well, and I remember at the beginning of it thinking that, like, wouldn't, because there were a lot of grandparents that were saying, oh, we can't see our grandkids, and you're missing out on that time and those connections. And I was like, go on FaceTime and
Yeah.
play checkers, or go on
Yeah.
whatever and interact
Yeah.
with them. Like, thank goodness for the technology at that point, that,
Exactly.
that you could do that if you wanted to, and still, at least get the kids to know you a little bit and have some interaction with them. And I, as much for the grandparents as for the grandkids, and even the
Mhm.
parents, maybe that give the parents a little break of, yeah, grandma's gonna come on and, play with you for a little bit, or play cards, or tell you a story. Like, how cool would it be if you shared your stories of your
Mhm.
growing up with your grandkids? Because that's one of the things I really remember about, particularly my grandma, sharing her stories of her family and her growing up experiences, that you're not going to know those
Mhm.
things if they don't get shared. So I love that you
Right.
created this with them.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. And he had fun. And some of his friends say, I remember when I was on your show. So that's kind of cute. My other grandchildren, it's interesting, they're all older, like, and they had their own things to do. And we did do the Zooms, as I mentioned. Um, but I did do games with the kids, and that's, Laura, that you brought that up, is that like their parents, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't have wanted to be a parent during COVID with a kid near me all the time, 24/7, and having to look after this. So I would come in and I'd play Uno with them, and a couple of other little games that you can do on the internet, together. So that's the way to do it. I mean, we did that with friends too. We played bridge and euchre, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that was cute. So my third thing, so I'm an empath. I feel people's needs, and I've always kind of, my mom used to say, you look after your own needs sometimes before others, right? And then other people thought I was selfish. So it depended whether they thought I was a bitch or a really nice person. But no, I always felt, if somebody was hurting, I was always feeling it. And I have a great little story. I had a friend in Montreal when I was little. I was just 4, and he had, I believe, he had cerebral palsy. So he walked, really badly with canes. And this is a long time ago. So they didn't have the incredible wheelchairs they have today. And Ralphie was his name, and he was such a sweetheart. Sorry that I'm segueing here, but it just came to me, and I started walking like him. And my mom was like mortified. She thought I was making fun of him. And she said, Vivian, like, what are you doing? Like, stop doing that. That's rude. And apparently in my little 4-year-old naivety, I said, Mommy, I'm walking like him so people don't just make fun of him. So they make fun of me too.
Oh
Like,
my
wow.
goodness.
Or,
Yeah, my goodness.
yeah. So that empath in me stayed. And the only thing I could think about, not the only, the one thing I kept thinking about during the very beginning of COVID was I have my husband. Okay, now 24/7 with husbands isn't always the best thing, but nonetheless, I had a partner with me in my home. So it wasn't just me alone. And I thought of all my single friends that couldn't go out and couldn't do this and, you know, all masked up for shopping and then back in their home and couldn't have people socializing. And this is before it was really strict here in Toronto, really, really strict. And lockdown was incredible. And if we had somebody who would be in a backyard and they'd sit like way far away. And, so some people in apartments didn't even have a backyard to go into. And I kept thinking about people who were alone, people who were single and didn't have any communication whatsoever with a human being other than on the phone or Zoom. And people weren't even doing Zoom a lot then. So I created a group called Huggers from a Distance. And I wrote to all my single friends that were in that situation. And then I wrote to all the empaths I know, all the people that were having a good life, not a good life, but you know what I mean, were surrounded by either their children or their husbands or their family or whatever, or their mother and father, and asked them if they'd like to join. So I set up the group and I said that it's just going to be, we don't even know what it's going to be. It's just going to be every Tuesday and Thursday from this time to this time. Hop on if you can, but who would like to run it with me? So I had a couple of girlfriends that suggested they'd like to run it with me, just so we could think of topics or something at the beginning. And so all my single friends joined, everyone. And then I guess about I don't have tons of single friends, but so there would be anywhere from 10 to 20 people on. And at the beginning, all 20, and then it dwindled down. And we did the most great. We did the greatest things. We did. Miriam and I just thought of some just really fun little activities, like we did trivia. We did what was your worst hairdo? Get a picture of you in your worst hairdo, and tell us what you were doing. And then it was just talk, and we avoided talking about what everybody was talking about all the time, and that was the COVID numbers. We did not talk about that. We talked about fears, and we talked about how we could flip that. We brought in, so I don't know if you know Lydia Kulishnik. She was one of the writers for Katie Carey in 2 of her books before.
No, I don't think so.
So Evolving with Purpose and Tick Tack, Click, 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 Clickety Clack or something. So she's a spiritual healer of mine. She does Reiki and just a lovely person. I asked her if she would come on. So she came on for 2 or 3 times, talked about, the state of the universe and what was happening and how things were going to get better. And she did some Reiki for us, long distance. So, and then I had a girl who's a fashion expert. So she did this whole very cute session on what to dress in your home during COVID so that you still look good and feel good. Oh, I'm so sorry. Just a minute. That's not even my phone. Oh. Sorry. I'm so sorry. That's I thought I had everything shut off.
It happens.
Anyway, it was great. And it just dissipated naturally because all of a sudden the world became Zoom hungry, and operas went on Zoom and Broadway plays were on Zoom, and you could do all these book clubs on Zoom. So it kind of then served its purpose because all the friends that were lonely kind of found that to go. And then slowly, people were actually seeing people. And so, and the person I felt most sorry for was my girlfriend, who was on 3 dating services because she was looking for a guy. And I just stopped, right? You couldn't meet anybody. So after we did the Zoom, she said, I'm going to ask people if they'll come on Zoom with me and just have a friendship. And so that happened, and it didn't go anywhere, but it was nice for her that when the lockdown happened, that she could actually meet somebody like you and I, close. So I might have stirred something in people that kind of made them feel, oh, I can handle this, you know. So
Yeah.
everybody was grateful and thankful, and it was fun. Yeah.
It sounds like you were definitely really creative and, a connector of people during that time. And I'm sure everyone really appreciated that so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Did any of those things carry over? Like, did those lead to anything that you're doing now? Are you still doing any of those things?
Well, the song was completed and finished, and Sawyer just grew out of it. Well, school happened, so we still have an incredible relationship. Sawyer is sort of, you know, there's 13 grandchildren. Most of them are on Roland's side of the family. Sawyer and Scarlett are my biological, right? They're the only two biological. And not that it makes a difference at all, because I'm extremely close to all of them. But Sawyer and I, because of that, have maintained an extremely close relationship. And we'll FaceTime alone. And oh, yes, you know what I did with him later as a result of his closeness on Zoom? Just remembered. So have you ever heard of Hal Elrod Savers, Savers?
I don't think so.
And it's called the Miracle Morning.
No, I don't
Miracle
think.
Morning. Look it up. Hal Elrod, Elrod, and he writes a book called The Miracle Morning. And he actually found through, I'm segueing again, but he actually found through studying successful people that there were 5 basic things that most of them did every day, and usually in the morning. And so he created this book, and he'd gone through some horrific illnesses and stuff like that that made him want to, get back into life. And so, just to make it short, he created Savers, which is silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, and reading. Where am I? Saver and script, and reading and scribing. So the scribing is what I always did. So I did a lot of those things all the time. I met him at a conference about 7 years ago, really got hooked into his Savers routine, and started waking up an hour to an hour and a half earlier every morning and doing them. And then some things weren't always right in the morning. Then I let it go. I let go of this beautiful, beautiful way of beginning the morning. And Clubhouse started. Have you ever been on Clubhouse?
I'm not really on it, but I'm familiar with it.
You're familiar. So Clubhouse is that audio platform, and somebody invited me on it, and I noticed that the Miracle Morning was on there. So I thought, oh, I'm going to go and see what they do. So they got me back into this, right? And this wonderful girl who was running it just got me, Bree, who just incredible, and she's a friend of Hal Elrod's and worked with him, and Brianna, and she just was super running it. And so I started to do it again. And then I realized this is what my grandchildren need, because so Sawyer was the one I thought I would practice on. And so he actually, again, we did it like this, and we did a little videos for kids to learn how to do Savers. And he would talk about, so first you go in silence, and then we do it. And then it's out there somewhere, and anybody, like, people have looked at it. So that was an offshoot of the Vava and Sawyer show. So that's kind of still, I just feel that extra closeness with him, which is great. And with my older kids, I'm on, like I do, I message,
Sure.
so we're on message. There, 2 of the girls are now in university, so I say I message them once a month to check in on them, and they're supposed to dedicate time to me. So that's that. The other thing was the song we talked about. The Huggers from a Distance. What happened is, because they were my friends in there, I would introduce them, and all of a sudden I'd see, I have another Vivian friend. So Vivian would come on, and I'd say, oh, Vivian's here. And I'd say, Vivian, introduce yourself to the group. And as a result, people who were my friends or associates made friends with friends they didn't know. So they weren't in the same groups originally. So that was cute to see. And as a result, one of my friends on that group and myself organized with my sister a yoga retreat in which we brought in somebody from California that we've been doing Zoom with. We brought her in to do this 3-day yoga retreat. We just had this August 22nd at my sister's cottage. We had 6 people. And of that, some of them were from that Huggers from a Distance group, which normally would have never associated with each other. So
Yeah, that's incredible. I feel like that's happening a lot with technology now, and with I mean, there are so many people, even like yourself, that I wouldn't know if it weren't for the connections of social media and being able to do these things. And I mean, Katie Carey, who's our publisher of the
yeah,
book, I wouldn't know her if it weren't for other people who I've connected with.
yeah,
We're kind of in the same groups on in Facebook and different
so
things.
cool.
And so yeah, but I love that you all actually met in person and came together that way for
Hmm.
a retreat. That's incredible.
Yeah, so cool. And look at us, like, I don't know. So you're telling me how you got connected. So one of one of the girls that came on the Huggers, uh, had a, okay, this is going to be too long a story. One day I had a person over here who was um, a teacher I had hired many, many years ago. She's now in her 50s, but she doesn't look it. And she was very young when I hired her. And we remained friends. And I did lots of favors, not favors for her. I helped her out with a number of things when she wanted to become a consultant. I backed her up and did this, and I helped her with interview processes and how to do an interview. But then I lost track with her for about 15 years. Anyway, for whatever reason, we ended up getting back together on a text. And I said, okay, this is not good enough. You have to come over. I have to see you. So fast forward, she comes to my new condo, and we're, you know, digging up all the great memories that we haven't had in a while. And she just stops and looks at me and says, how do you do it? Like, look at you. Like you looked 15 years ago. You've still got as much energy as I remember. How do you do it? And something like went like this to me, where I said, people say that all the time, and I'm being very immodest when I say this, and I'm flattered and I'm humbled, but I toss it off. Like I go, yeah, well, love of life. Like I just kind of toss it off and I go on to another topic. But when she said that this time, I don't know where my mind was all of a sudden, it turned on and I went, how do I do that? How do I do that? Maybe I should be telling people. Maybe I shouldn't just toss it off. And I said to her, and she thought it was crazy. I said, Robin, I'm going to find out. So that's when here we are again, still stuck in the house, not traveling, what I wanted to do. And I've written journals for 100 years. And I have here in this condo 40 of my, like I have more, but I have 40 of them from 35 years ago and up. And I decided to read them, and I went into them with stickers, like highlighted different sticker, like yellow, pink, all that. And I decided I would highlight little anecdotes or things that happened to me where I came, I jumped the hurdle. I overcame the challenge. I righted myself up again. I flipped my life around to a more forward moving life. And I wanted to see what were the characteristics I had. And I came up with this bunch of words that you come up with characteristics. And I found that I could fit them into the words vibrant. So there were V words, I words, E words, R words, A, and a T. So for A, there was action oriented, which we just talked about. There was being audacious, right? And, so all these words fit things. For V, obviously vivacious and doing things with vitality, being vulnerable, all these different things that fit for V. And I was always inspired by people, and I made it a point of like hanging around inspired people, like Jim Rohn says, the best 5 people. Yeah, like be inspired, let yourself be inspired and learn what they're doing to be successful. But on top of being inspired, I was inspiring. Later on, I paid it forward. I did self-care. So I looked after the I in me. So I found these little things and I thought to myself, maybe I should write a book. And so I did. So that's what happened. And it sort of was the offshoot of everything else. And because of that, Lydia, who is in touch with me, found out and she said, well, maybe you want to write one of your chapters might fit for one of Katie Carey's books. And that's sort of how the thing got to Katie Carey. And now I know you. Like,
Yeah.
I love this,
Yeah, it just comes around and you just don't know. I mean, there are 2 or 3, I think, of our co-authors, co-contributors to Entangled No More that I'm familiar with from before, and everybody else is new to my world. So,
Uh-huh.
like you said, this is how it expands out, and you have a connection, and who knows what that connection
Mhm.
sometimes will lead to, right?
And it's meant to be. It's meant to be. It's meant to be that we now know each other. I'm going to head to Michigan and visit you one day. I'm going to
There you
head to
go.
Toronto, and you have a friend here.
Yeah, we're not that
And
far away. So
yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, it's just amazing. And I think, like you said, the stuff that you did to connect people and then even to reconnect with your friend who sparked that thought in you of, hey,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to write this book that's, coming out. And um, did you do that? Did you do that over the last couple of years? You wrote that book, not the Entangled No More chapter, but your solo book. Did you just do that over the last couple of years, or has that been a project for a while?
No, just so and that came together with the Miracle Morning thing too. So it was just like it was so crazy how the coincidences. I'm wearing aligners right now, so the coincidences all aligned. Aligners. Um, After she left, I kind of thought, I'm going to read my journals and do that. And then I was on Miracle Morning, and Hal Elrod came on. He doesn't usually come on to the clubhouse. And he came on that morning and he said, is anybody interested in writing a book? I have this great friend, and he told me his name and said, and he's doing a workshop, and it's, if you want to register, I can send you the link. So I went, wow, like I just thought about that yesterday. So I did the link and I found that um, uh, uh, this self-publishing, what's it called? Self-publishing school. It's a school just with coaches, um, aligned with how I need to be taught something. You know, Chad Chad Bolt or whatever his name is, and so I listened to him for 45 minutes, and then we had question and answer. And I thought, I'm going to do this. Like this just came my way. I'm going to do this, and the cost was reasonable to me, and I could handle it. So, and I wasn't going on that trip, so I might as well spend it on something. And immediately got into it. But I spent the first 2 months. So this is October. I spent October and November and half of December just reading my journals. What a delight that was! I couldn't believe what I wrote. Like I've never revisited them like that. Like I read word for word, and I kept putting all these stickies and I've written poetry. I got a lot of poetry in there, and some of my songs that I wrote. That I had one song that actually went on the radio called "Between Friends" with the same Richard Samuel. Anyway, so I really got down to writing in January, and I was so focused on this and so in love with the idea. And honestly, Laura, for no other reason than leaving a legacy for my kids. I just thought they're going to know. So this is the cute thing. The dedication might sound like this. It's, to all my children, but specifically to my biological sons, whom I gave birth, who think I'm an ace, annoying, crazy, and embarrassing. They've told me that 100,000 times. Mom, you're so annoying. Mom, you're so embarrassing. So this is a book to tell them maybe why I was like that, the real me. And that's all I was writing it for, and then this opportunity came up with Katie. And now I'm like feeling like a professional author. I was just throwing it out there, right? It's going to be called Go Vibrant. So it was going to be living a vibrant life. And then everybody said to me, that sounds like an old person living a vibrant, like an old person title. So we came up with Go Vibrant.
I
And
love
it's
it.
basically, it's a cute thing, Laura, because my name is Viv. The tagline underneath it is notes and anecdotes for loving and living the joie de vivre with the Viv, like big VIV, joie de vivre. So my joy of life. So notes and anecdotes on living my life of joy, right? So anyway.
I love it. And do you know when that's gonna be released?
Well, fingers crossed. So I'm on my second edit with my editor now. So this is a whole new world to me. You've written books, and I have some children's books I'll probably now publish that I wrote, but I just ran off. So it's like, now that I'm so serious about it, this is like an incredible world, this world of authorship. And I was hoping originally for the end of September, but that's not going to happen. And now November 9th is that was my dad's birthday. So I thought that might be a nice target, but it'll probably be that between that and December, because now I'm on the second edits. I've got a great editor. If I would have taken Angela. She was a great editor too, but I had already picked mine. And she's a cousin of Roland's, my husband. And she's wonderful. She's so she's really on it. She's exactly what I needed. Like, not someone who's going to take over my style, because it's a mixed potpourri of things all over the map in this book. And I don't want anyone to change that. I don't want anyone to structure it. I have little lessons in there. What do you call them? Oh my God, exercises. Little exercises that you fill in the middle of nowhere. All of a sudden, it just says, "Hey, vibrant you, it's your turn." And then I give them an exercise. And it's not like at the end of every paragraph. I have affirmation pages that just show up all of a sudden. I have anecdotes that fly out, and then advice that, if you read my chapter, you'll see the kind of style I have. Yeah, I'm hoping November, and it's sort of good timing with this coming, or Entangled No More. So my chapter is called Free to Be Vibrant Me, and it's the chapter in my life where I decided to open a new book, where it all of a sudden, the same thing like when Robin told me this, and I thought, I have to write a book. An incident happened with my then husband, and it was a dysfunctional situation, and it just was dysfunction after dysfunction after dysfunction, and I was living through it just like many of these women, I'm sure their stories are. Nothing physical, but just getting to me. And an incident happened, an evening with him, where my head went, that's it, done. Yeah, so that's what started me on being the vibrant me that I am, like letting me be me. And that's actually the chapter is
Yeah.
Entangled No More.
Yeah, I love that. It seems like a lot of times we just have that one trigger that you decide that this is,
Yeah.
This is it. And we hear that a lot of times in these stories, that's the common denominator frequently, is that, okay, no, I've had enough, and
Yeah.
we're going to do whatever it is, whether it's your job or something personal or whatever. So yeah, I think that's beautiful. So we need to look for our listeners. So
Yeah.
look for Entangled No More, first of all,
Right.
out on
Sure.
Amazon, for Vivian's chapter and my chapter on that. And then
What's your title, Laura?
mine is A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life.
Oh, it is the same. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's the same. And then we'll be looking for your release of your solo book, which, should be coming up in the next couple months as well. I love that you shared your stories with me today and our listeners. I think they're incredible. I love your creativity. I love your vibrance.
Thank you.
Oh, it just absolutely comes through. And so do you have, I'm going to put it in the show notes, but do you have a website or a Facebook group or anything, socials that you want to
Yeah, I
share?
have everything. I have Insta, Facebook. I have a website. The website's really simple. It's vivianshapiro.com.
Perfect.
And hopefully I'll start a little blog in there about being vibrant. I think I have a virtual assistant that helped me with that website. She said, Vivian, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, now the next project, right?
So our listeners can find you there on your website. And then
Yes,
thank you so much
thank
for
you.
joining me today. It's been such a joy to have you. And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you, Laura. I can hardly wait to read your chapter and read everybody's, actually. I just can't wait to, now that we've gotten to know the women, to see what their stories were and to cry and laugh along with them. And especially meeting you like this, I feel like it's in person. And hopefully one day we can have like a great reunion of authors and just meet together for a retreat, an author's retreat.
That would be amazing. So again, thanks to everyone for listening to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. For more information, visit my website at www.lauramuirhead.com.